brings me more joy than posting up at night and just reading my little heart out on my iPad about random topics. But how I got here is one night I was reading about in the C section. I was reading about the Zoot, and I said, I clearly must know everything about that as quickly as humanly possible. So I kind of gathered a bunch of information. I still don't think I know everything about it, but I know a good amount, which is all I can ask for. But I kind of wrote a little essay about it, so I'm going to read to you my essay, if you don't mind. I have a podcast, and this essay was for my podcast, but I also am wanting to share it with you guys, so please enjoy. From Jazz Age to modern day homages, my journey into the world of the Zoot has not only expanded my understanding of fashion history, but also highlighted the timeless power of style to reflect and shape cultural narratives across generations. So let's first talk about its conception. The Zoot is an iconic and uniquely American style of dress. It emerged in the late 1930s within the black youth culture of Harlem, New York. From its Harlem origins, it quickly spread in popularity among working-class minority youth in California, finding adopters amongst Mexican American, Filipino, and even a small subset of Japanese Americans, including some who experienced World War II era internment camps in the United States. I feel like those internment camps aren't discussed enough. Full stop. The Zoot's origins can be traced back to the drape suit, which was a more relaxed and stylish men's suit that gained popularity in the 1930s, most notably popularized by the Duke of Windsor, Edward VIII. London was a key center for menswear during both the 19th and 20th century, and Frederick Schulte, the Duke of Windsor's personal tailor, is often credited with pioneering the drape suit in the mid-1930s. Now, the drape suit was fashioned out of the light V silhouette created by Army uniform jackets. It was designed purposely with more room in the chest and shoulders of the suit jacket and trousers, and the lower half of the jacket softly clung to the bottom, creating a drapish effect. One fashion writer observed, the design emphasized male athleticism and virality. The looser pants created a drape around the legs, which contributed to the suit's distinctive flair. The English drape became a favorite of the Duke of Windsor, and as Julius J. Adams of the New York Amsterdam News noted, many of the more daring of our Americans studied his garments before seeing their tailors, referring to the Duke of Windsor. The Zoot suit, which clearly evolved from the drape suit, distinguished itself primarily in its silhouette. The drape suit was a stylish adaptation. The Zoot suit took on a more exaggerated form, particularly in the American Southwest. Often those who popularized the Zoot suit, particularly African American and Latino Americans, did not have easy access to professional tailors and altered these oversized suits themselves, adding their own eccentric changes to the drape suit silhouette. This DIY tailoring, born of necessity and creative ingenuity, resulted in the Zoot suit's signature features: a jacket with oversized padded shoulders and a long-length coat reaching to just above or at the knee, and high-waisted trousers that were cinched at the waist, knees, and at the ankle. The extra fabric and added padding broadened the jacket's shoulders and extended the jacket's length, while the cinched-in trouser waist created a distinctive and dramatic look. The Zoot suit, with its exaggerated silhouette that challenged traditional fashion norms, became a powerful symbol of self-expression and often political protest. representing a desire to be seen and heard, particularly among marginalized communities. The Zoot Suit offered a prime example of fashion's democratization, as its bold new style gained mass popular appeal. Wearers embraced and enhanced their own suits, making it a custom form of personal expression. As the style became increasingly popular in the jazz community, with figures like Cab Calloway and Count Basie frequently wearing the suit in the late 1930s to the 40s, it continued to gain national recognition. The wider arms and roomier trousers not only contributed to the suit's distinctive look, but also allowed performers to move more freely while performing, further cementing its association with a dynamic and expressive cultural movement. Throughout the first half of the 20th century, black and brown communities would continue to create fashion that spoke to the desire to be viewed on their terms and in their own style. The Zoot Suit's history is also marked by an instance of social injustice. Clarissa Esquerra of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art described it. It is considered the first uniquely American suit, she says, about the Zoot Suit. The black and brown youths were often criminalized for the looks that they adopted, and this was tragically evident in the summer of 1943. During this period, the press sensationalized the killing of a young Latino man in Los Angeles. The incidents known as the Sleepy Lagoon murder, given its location, would go on to arouse fear among white Angelenos and make Mexican Americans targets of law enforcement. As we know, in this country in particular, there's nothing more dangerous than white fear, aka racism. This racially charged atmosphere, combined with a couple other factors, set the stage for a period of intense conflict. Police racially profiled individuals wearing the suits, unjustly beating and apprehending hundreds of young men, including black and Filipino Americans. The summer of 1943 saw escalating racial tensions, culminating in the infamous Zoot Suit riots. Fueled by sensationalized media coverage, particularly in Los Angeles, which often labeled the Zoot Suits as freak suits. Servicemen engaged in a 5-day period in June 1943, when they stalked the streets of Los Angeles, attacking Mexican American Zoot Suiters. Grab a suitor, take off his pants and frock coat, and tear them up or burn them. This atmosphere was thick with the threat of violence. These riots were not an isolated incident. They occurred amidst a summer of violent upheaval, including race riots in Detroit and New York. However, as historians note, it was only in Los Angeles that a style of dress became the focal point of unrest and figured so prominently in the response. For its wearers, black and brown men, the suit represented a freedom over the body, a powerful statement of self-worth. If you think about the braceros or the descendants of enslaved African Americans, they were workers. Observed by one commentator, he continues, "When you wear this garment, it's saying, I'm valuable, I'm more than a worker, I value my body." Several factors contributed to the racial tensions that preceded the riots. Workers were needed in the agricultural and service sectors to fill jobs vacated by those serving in the military. An agreement was reached with Mexico to bring in temporary workers from Mexico. However, this influx of Mexican workers was not particularly welcomed by all white Americans. Restrictions on wool had a direct effect on the manufacture of wool suits and other clothing. These regulations, which effectively prohibited the manufacturing of Zoot Suits, were seen by some as being deliberately ignored by Mexican American youth wearing the Zoot Suits after all, further exacerbating racial tensions. Even though a network of bootleg tailors continued to manufacture them, the perception that the Zoot Suit wearers were un-American and deliberately ignoring the ration regulations fueled the further resentment. The Zoot Suit riots are commonly associated with the Sleepy Lagoon murders, which occurred in August 1942. The Sleepy Lagoon was the name of a larger reservoir outside of the city of Los Angeles. On August 1st, 1942, Zoot despite dubious evidence. These convictions of Mexican-American youths were later reversed on appeal in 1944 in October. From 1942 through 1943, media outlets continued to portray Zoot Suiters as dangerous gang members capable of murder. Based on these news reports, more and more people began to believe that the Mexican-American youths, Zoot Suiters, were predisposed to committing crimes. It was within this racially charged atmosphere that the conflict between predominantly white servicemen and Mexican-American youths in the area began. Initially, these were minor altercations, but they later escalated significantly. Within the months of the Sleepy Lagoon case, the Zoot Suit riots erupted. The riots began on June 3, 1943, after a group of sailors claimed they'd been attacked by a group of Mexican-American Zoot Suiters. On June 4th, uniformed sailors chartered cabs and headed into Mexican-American communities seeking out Zoot Suiters. This marked the beginning of a series of conflicts between servicemen and Zoot Suiters. Zoot Suiters were often beaten by servicemen and stripped of their Zoot Suits, which were sometimes urinated on or burned in the streets. A local paper even published an article on how to de-suit a Zoot Suiter, including directions on how Zoot Suits should be burned. Servicemen were frequently portrayed as heroes fighting against a supposed Mexican crime wave. The worst of the rioting occurred on the night of June 7th, when thousands of servicemen and citizens prowled downtown Los Angeles, attacking not only Zoot Suiters, but also members of other minority communities who were not wearing Zoot Suits. The Los Angeles County often stood by as the violence unfolded. Instead of intervening, they frequently arrested the victims of the attack, claiming the assailants were acting in self-defense. As Al Waxman, editor of the Los Angeles newspaper, the East Side Journal, witnessed at the scene and pleaded with officers to step in, he was told it was a matter for the military police and they refused to get involved. The violence escalated over 2 days, and the mob swelled with civilians, sailors, soldiers, and Marines. Taxi drivers even willingly drove sailors downtown so they could indiscriminately attack any Mexican American, regardless of if they were wearing a Zoot Suit. Even if they were not wearing a Zoot Suit. Meanwhile, newspapers often praised the attackers. On June 4th, the Oakland Tribune described the vigilante mob as a vengeance squad and declared, "We are out to do what the police have failed to do." On June 6th and 7th, the mob met resistance when they moved to East Los Angeles and pushed into a predominantly black neighborhood of Watts in search of Zoot Suiters. Rudy Levis, a teenager at the time, remembered setting traps with his friends. Toward evening, we started hiding in alleys. Then we sent about 20 guys right into the middle of the street as decoys. They started coming after the decoys. Then we came out. It was a surprise. It was the first time anybody had organized to fight back. The violence and targeting of young men created widespread fear. One mother pleaded with the officers, quote, "Don't take my boy. He did nothing. He's only 15 years old. Don't take him." Only to be hit across the face with an officer's nightstick in a desperate attempt for protection. A group of boys even turned themselves into the police, saying things like, "Charge me with vagrancy or anything, but don't send me out there." Finally, on June 8th, the riots subsided when military officials with the southern sector of the Western Defense Command declared Los Angeles off-limits to soldiers, sailors, and Marines, and ordered military police to arrest disorderly service members. Because the local police were completely unable or unwilling to handle the situation, military police were ordered to patrol parts of the city and arrest that was declared a victory by many residents. In the aftermath of the riots, many offered explanation for the violence. Los Angeles Mayor Fletcher Bowron blamed lawlessness and juvenile delinquents amongst Mexican-American teenagers. Senator Jack Taney of the Los Angeles Senate Fact-Finding Subcommittee on Un-American Activities bizarrely claimed that the riots were the work of communist agents and Axis spies stirring up racial troubles. Some Mexican-American leaders like Eduardo Quivera argued that the city needed a police force that was more prompt and equitable in its response to the community. California-based journalist Gary McWilliams offered a stark assessment. On Monday, June 7, 1943, he reported that thousands of Angelenos turned out for a mass lynching, describing how a mob of several thousand soldiers, sailors, and civilians hunted down every suit-suiter they could find. The riots resulted in many injuries, but remarkably no deaths. However, considerably more Mexican Americans and service members were arrested, upwards of 600 of the former, fueling widespread criticism of the Los Angeles Police Department's response. California Governor Earl Warren created a citizens committee to investigate the cause of the Zoot Suit riots. The committee's report indicated several factors contributed, but that racism was a central cause, exacerbated by the bias and inflammatory media coverage and the action or inaction of the Los Angeles Police Department. Los Angeles Mayor Fletcher Bowron, perhaps concerned about the riot's negative impact on the city's image, offered his own conclusion, claiming that racial prejudice was not a factor and that the riots were caused by juvenile delinquents. The Zoot Suit, beyond its distinctive style, represented youthful masculinity, pride, and a bold challenge to racial discrimination. Its popularity extended beyond Mexican Americans, finding adherents among African American, Italian American, Jewish American, Filipino American, and Japanese American communities. Even Mexican American women, known as pachucas, adopted elements of the style. While older generations didn't quite understand the Zoot Suit, attributing it to youthful expression, the War Production Board's ban on wearing them in manufacturing Zoot Suits due to their excessive use of ration cloths further politicized the garment. The ban made it clear that to some, the Zoot Suit was more than just a fashion statement. It was a symbol of defiance. The legacy of the Zoot Suit, however, extends this dark chapter in American history. Extends beyond this dark chapter in American history. In Mexico City, dance halls began catering to a clientele that donned pachuca styles, demonstrating the suit's enduring appeal, even as the Zoot Suit began to fade in the 1950s, with a return to pre-war trends in trimmer suits. Its influence and current flamboyance lingers. Certain flamboyance lingered. As Daniel James Cole, a historian who teaches at the New York Fashion Institute of Technology, notes, the Zoot Suit never entirely disappeared. On May 16, 2023, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors officially condemned the Zoot Suit riots, acknowledging the deep injustice and harm caused by these events. This formal condemnation serves as a reminder of the complex and often painful history associated with this iconic garment and underscores its enduring significance as a symbol of both cultural pride and racial tension. Most recently, we saw many iterations of the Zoot Suit at the 2025 Met Gala. The theme was superfine, tailoring black style original suit, though that can be argued since each suit was pretty custom to the wearer. So in conclusion, the Zoot suit, born from Harlem's black youth culture in the late 1930s, transcended mere fashion to become a powerful symbol of self-expression and cultural identity for marginalized communities across America. Evolving from the draped suit, its exaggerated silhouette, characterized by oversized shoulders and cinched trousers, was often a result of creative DIY tailoring by those who lacked access to professional tailors, further cementing its unique flair and personal connection to its wearer. However, this iconic garment's journey is also marked by tragic social injustice, most notably the 1943 Zoot suit riots in Los Angeles, California. Despite this dark chapter, the Zoot suit's legacy endures, symbolizing defiance, pride, and a timeless testament to how style can powerfully reflect and shape cultural narratives across generations, as seen in its continued influence in dance halls, theaters, music, and recent homages at events like the Met Gala. I found the Zoot suit to be a really interesting topic to research. That is everything that I know about the Zoot suit. I know that there's also a movie called The Zoot Suit. I didn't watch it, but I know that it exists, so I would recommend that you watch it. If there's any aspect of this spiel